Hi, everybody. I'm really sorry you can only see me. Maybe somebody wants to change the owl or something. Hi, everybody. Thank you for coming today. Welcome to this hearing on the reclassification of approximately 0.3 miles of the South Bear Swamp Road, initiated by the Selectboard on its own motion pursuant to 19 VSA. What is that little thing, Stacy? Section 708A. The segment of road under consideration begins at the town plow turnaround where the Class 3 roadway ends and continues east to the Klein and Lund driveway. Vermont's open meeting law assures your right to attend and participate in meetings of local public boards and committees. We appreciate you taking the time to be here. Under 19 VSA Section 710, after examining the premises and hearing from interested parties, the Select Board must determine whether the public good, necessity, and convenience of the inhabitants of the municipality require that the highway be laid out, altered, or reclassified. A site visit was held today at 4:45 p.m., and we will now proceed with the public hearing. We take this opportunity to remind those in attendance of the rules adopted by the Select Board regarding public participation. Please help us make the best use of everyone's time by following these guidelines. Members of the public will be given a reasonable opportunity to express their opinions on matters before the body, provided order is maintained. Public comment is open to all members of the public, not just residents of Middlesex. Members of the public must be recognized by the presiding officer before speaking. That's me. Comments are limited to 3 minutes unless additional time is granted by the presiding officer. That's me. Unused time may not be reserved or transferred to another speaker. Speakers will be heard on a first-come, first-served basis. However, the presiding officer may modify this process to avoid repetitive or irrelevant comments and to ensure that a variety of viewpoints, including opposing perspectives, are heard. Speakers may be asked, but are not required, to state their name and/or address. Public comments must be germane to the agenda item under discussion. That means the South Bear Swamp reclassification. Members of the public may speak more than once on the same agenda item only if time permits, with the consent of the presiding officer, and only after all others wishing to speak have had an opportunity to do so. Speakers must wait their turn, may not interrupt others, and should direct all remarks to the chair rather than to others in the room. Participants must respect the rulings and instructions of the chair. Disruptive conduct may result in removal from the meeting if necessary. Members of the public do not have voting rights on agenda items. Please help ensure a meeting environment where everyone feels safe expressing their views, where disruptions are minimized so the community's work can be accomplished. We value your engagement and encourage participation through the many opportunities available within your community, our community. Yep.
Tom and Susan, could we ask that you guys mute yourselves, please?
Okay. So first we're going to hear from the petitioner, which I know we don't specifically have a petitioner, but Michael Hill should speak first, correct?
We need to address the procedural.
Can you hear from me now, Zara?
We need to address the procedural issue with the publication and the warning of the meeting before we open it up.
Zara, I don't understand. Are you asking to hear from me?
Just pause for one moment, Mike. Sorry. Say that again, Stacy, please.
We need to address that the notice was late. The published notice in the Times-Argus was late.
Okay,
That
correct.
We feel like we need to acknowledge it, but feel that warning was still given to the interested parties. But
Okay.
So
Unfortunately, one of the processes that you have to take to have a special hearing like this, was not followed. So the advertisement in the Times-Argus was not within 10 days, as is outlined. So I just want to make everybody aware of that. The person who wants this to move forward, Michael Hill has asked that we go ahead and move forward, but just so you know that that means that this all could be challenged afterwards. Anything else? I think with that, Mike, if you could go ahead and take 3 minutes to kind of state your case.
Two things. One, I don't think I asked for it to move forward. I was asked by Rob Halpert, would I object if it moved forward? And I said, well, I don't. I don't imagine other people would, but I did not ask either way. The second thing that's important for people to understand is I am not free today to express my opinions. I got a letter from your council or an email 2 or 3 hours ago directing me not to communicate with the town at all about this matter, except through him. He's not on this call. His name is John Kelsch. I had not received a phone call from him ahead of time, so I don't know him. I do know one of his partners, and I like his partner, but I really have to, and Sandy Levine, who's a lawyer, and Stacy Skadberg, and any other lawyers on the call will tell you, I have to honor Mr. Kelsch's request, and that is not make any communications at all to you all about this matter tonight or any other time. I will do it through Mr. Kelsch only. I mean, I have to do it through Mr. Kelsch only until he consents otherwise. This is a change because in the past, Rob Halpert had expressly given permission to communicate directly, but Mr. Kelsch has taken a contrary position just hours before this hearing, and this is where we are. So you won't, nor will the public have the opportunity to hear my views on these things tonight.
Okay. Thank you, Michael.
Can we just get clarity, is he a property owner on that section?
He is.
Yes.
Driveway on the right, going down the hill, first driveway on the right?
Yep. Okay, do we have the list of people?
Could I enter?
Yes, please, Rob.
Michael, are you referring to an email that John copied me on that he sent you at 2 o'clock this afternoon?
Hold on, Rob, because he is in the waiting room.
I don't know if that's Michael. I think he jumped out. I think that's a different Michael. Oh, Mike Hill, are you still with us?
I am, yes.
Excellent.
Mike, I don't know if you heard my question. My question was, are you referring to the email that you received from John Clush this afternoon around 2 o'clock that I got CC'd on? Or was there some additional email he sent you?
Can you hear that, Mike?
Maybe opting out.
Mike, you're muted. Can you hear that? Did you hear?
I cannot hear what, I didn't even know Rob was speaking. I can't hear what he's saying. I saw it dimly toward the end, but I can't hear it.
I don't know where we have the microphones, but it's right here. Do you mind? I'm so
I
sorry.
don't mind, thanks. Michael, my question was whether the email you referenced from John Clush was the one you received around 2 o'clock this afternoon that I got copied on, or was there some other email he sent you forbidding you from speaking tonight?
Could you hear that, Mike?
Travis says that,
No, I could not.
Travis says he can only hear you on Zoom, which maybe means the owl and the microphones aren't working.
Owl is turned off.
Yeah,
But I would have to hear direction otherwise, if that's what Rob is trying to give, from John Kelch. He is now lead counsel. He identified himself as that. And I can only, under ethics rule 4.2, communicate through him at this point.
Yep, I just did. I just did from here.
Michael, can
I
you hear
really
me now?
Hold on.
Rob was copied on that email, by the way, so Rob's familiar with what I'm talking about.
I am. Michael, can you hear me?
tech struggles.
Is that better? Someone on Zoom?
Can you see what the chat says?
Yeah,
No.
we can't hear
No,
what
I
Rob's
can't hear
saying.
anything either.
All right.
I'm gonna turn this off and turn it back on again.
No.
Someone in the waiting room too.
Is it that one?
No,
I think it's this one. No, that's the TV.
it's TV.
I posted Mr. Kelch's email on my nonprofit's website. So anybody can see it. Rob can see it. Anybody can see it. It's under today's date, very easy. They're all alphabetically down there. So, and there's the one thing I could maybe do today is if a question comes up that only I could answer, I can't answer it today, but I think I could, consistent with Rule 4.2, say that you might see it on something that I had communicated earlier and posted on that website.
Hey,
Mike,
can I stop you for a second? Rob is saying that you have what the lawyer has said wrong. Can you hear us now? Can everybody hear us now? Mike, can you hear us now?
I can hear you now, Sarah, yes.
Okay,
It's-
Rob, can you speak, Rob?
Michael, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Okay, if you're referring to the email that John Klesch sent you at about 2 o'clock,
I am.
yeah.
I am.
And I was copied on that, and my understanding of what John was saying in that email is he was asking you not to communicate directly with members of the select board with respect to any claim you have against the town that might lead to litigation. He was not asking you, at least as far as I interpret it, he was not asking you to be silent during a separate reclassification hearing. I would expect that if John meant that, he would have said that because he knew there was going to be another reclassification hearing this evening, because I know that Stacy advised him of that. So, I don't think that if you wish to stick with your interpretation of John's email, John represents the town solely with respect to the claims that you have raised that deal with litigation matters or your threats of litigation, but he doesn't represent the town in this proceeding, and he doesn't represent the town in any other matter, so. Again, I believe what he meant was that, he didn't want you negotiating separately with or directly with members of the select board with regard to any aspect of your claim, but we're not here tonight about your claim, we're here tonight about whether or not the select board's gonna decide to reclassify a portion of the road, so, I just want you to know, I'm fully comfortable with having you speak tonight, and in fact, quite the opposite. If you feel like you can't speak tonight, I'm gonna recommend to the board that we postpone this hearing, because I don't wanna have a situation where down the road, anybody can make a claim that they were not given a full and fair opportunity to be heard as part of a statutory proceeding. So I just wanted to clarify that for you, ask you to reconsider, and that's about it.
And before you speak, Mike, I've got Charlie and some other people who have their hands up. Go ahead, Charlie.
I just note too that I think the attorney-client privilege is controlled by the client, not the attorney. So if this board, what Rob said already takes precedence, this is not the issue that John Klesch is involved in representing the town for. But even if it were, the attorney-client privilege is emphatically controlled by the client, not the attorney. And if this board says you can talk, you jolly well can talk regardless of what John Klesch says.
Thank you. Thank you, Charlie.
Sorry, we were just gonna comment that there are other members and residents.
Can you
of-
say your name?
Yeah, sorry, my name is Sarah Lund. I'm also a resident on South Bear Swamp Road, the Class 4 section. And my husband and I are both here, also in support of this, so we are happy to speak on behalf of requesting this as well. if.
That's
my
great.
husband-
Does that work? Great.
That's great, but
Mike, would you like your 3 minutes?
I'm still where I am, Zara, that if that was Charlie Merriman, I assume, this is not a privilege question at all. It's a question of whether or not, which is our ethics rule 1.6. This is an issue under a different rule, 4.2, and Sandy and Stacy will, I think, back me up, that once an attorney has written what Mr. Kelch wrote, which is, and I'll read it, it's on the website.
No, that's not what this hearing is for. So if you choose, stop talking. If you choose not to testify tonight, that is your choice. However, what I have heard from several lawyers is that what you got today has to do with the litigation you were talking about, not about the reclassification of the Class 3 road. So if you want to give up your 3 minutes, that's fine. We have other members of the road who are happy to step in.
except I have a problem with that.
Yes.
Oh,
You've got a
okay.
big problem there.
Okay,
I will.
okay.
Just on behalf of the town, I don't agree with Mike's take.
I don't
but if he-
either.
If he's gonna have that take,
Yep,
I don't want a situation where we go forward with a hearing and have everybody else say their piece, and then somebody might make, it could be Mike, it could be somebody else saying, because somebody didn't have a chance to speak, or felt they didn't have a chance to speak, that this proceeding is somehow invalid or subject to challenge. And I think that is, I'd be worried about that. And I want the board to be aware of that before the board decides whether it should continue to move forward tonight. I think that Mike's interpretation of this email he got from John is just flat out wrong.
yep.
And I suppose that we could hope that I'm right and that Mike's wrong about that, and that if there's a challenge later, some judge or jury somewhere would say that Mike was not justified in taking that position and therefore can't complain that he didn't have a chance to participate. But I just, I don't like the way that this is proceeding.
I don't either. It honestly seems manipulative to me, considering the amount of people that are here for this. Please, go right ahead.
Okay, sorry. Sarah,
Well, Zara, why don't I do this? Why don't I talk the remainder of my 3 minutes? And but I will ask you not to respond to myself, because that would be under Rule 4.2 an issue. I don't know. I wish Mr. Kells were here, but I will disagree with the premise earlier tonight that Rob made a moment ago, which is he has been retained regarding my threats of litigation. What this has been since 2022 is an effort to reach an agreement. I offered for 7 years to pay for part of the upgrade, just all my own, since 2019. And then we were threatened in 2022 that our entire road might be turned into a trail. And that was by a select board member and by the road foreman. And I reported it to Peter Hood, first quietly, and then Peter asked me to report it to the full board, and that was done. And I pointed out, look, you go a half a mile from my neighbor, why not go less than a half a mile for 5 people? And that's true at both ends of our stretch.
It doesn't. I'm going to let him have his 3 minutes to talk however he wants to talk, but that's it. That's the limit.
I know that we have.
Mike,
order,
stop.
But this is very pertinent to what happened in our roads, and we are gonna speak to that as well. So I don't really appreciate saying that it isn't valid. It very, very much is pertinent to our road.
Okay.
Yeah, I
Mike-
agree with you, Sarah. It's
So-
very pertinent, but it has nothing to do with what
You-
we're talking about first preliminarily, which is whether or not Mike Hill is gonna participate in this hearing.
But he is.
And now he's
With this
participating without us resolving the issue, so I don't think that's right.
Okay, and it's virtual, and I do have a question.
Could you tell
for-
her to talk to you?
Yeah,
to the
so
attorney?
everybody needs to talk to me, but here, everybody
Talk to
needs,
her.
stop, everybody needs to stop. Mike, you have a minute and a half left, and then we're moving to Sarah, okay? Go.
Well, I'll just say, I wouldn't characterize what I've done here as a threat. It's what I would do to any private party, which is before I do bring a lawsuit, I would say, look, I think we have legal rights here. And if we need to resolve them in court, I've never in my life sued on my own behalf, but we'll have to do that, especially because the threat was not just because Vic had a personal animosity toward me, it was against my 4 neighbors too. So I did say to the 5 members at that time when I was confronted by Vic, Peter, Randy, and Liz, and it was not comfortable, but I did say, look, if we can't work this out, I will have to go to court. And by the way, even
That's
more
it,
so,
Mike.
even if more so if it's not a private client, that's what any good lawyer
Mike.
does. If it's the government, you have a First Amendment right to petition.
That's it. We're done. Mike, 3 minutes. It's up. Thank you so much for your testimony. I really do appreciate it. We're going to move on to Sarah.
And sir, I don't know who you are, and I apologize. I simply wanted to ask, and I feel like with some things being virtual, it's not being heard
I'm sorry, you
as
don't have to
well.
apologize. My name is Rob Halpert, I'm the
Yeah.
town
Don't
attorney.
talk to me, talk to me.
I understand, but I wanted to, before, that way that we could clarify
Yeah,
to resolve
that's okay.
things, Zara. I was curious if Mike would have stated that he was comfortable not speaking, if we would be okay moving forward. That was simply all I wanted to ask, so that we could resolve the situation and move forward.
And I
So-
believe Mike's had his 3
Yes.
minutes. So now
That's what I
let's
think.
stop. I'm going to stop this. I'm going to reset. And would you like 3 minutes? Would you like your 3 minutes?
I'm gonna take mine later, but my husband will.
Please. What's your name for the record?
Yeah, I'm John Lund. I live at 406 South Bear Swamp Road at the very end of the Class 4 section, the 3/10 of a mile. And I just want to start by thanking everybody tonight for being here, and what I hope will, moving forward, we can engage in some productive discussion. And I know some of you at the board have heard a lot of what I've already said, but I think it bears repeating. You know, almost exactly 5 years ago, my family came here and visited this beautiful town. We fell in love with the area and decided to start a new life here. We did choose to move onto a Class 4 road. And in reality, at least financially, that's the only choice we had. Since moving in 2021, we've invested ourselves heavily into the town, our kids go to Rumney School. My wife's a special ed teacher at U32, and I've been building a new home, a business. You know, we didn't come here, though, with any expectation that we deserve special treatment. We didn't come here thinking we're gonna gentrify our neighborhood or make changes in our town, or even ask for a road upgrade. I mean, we had enough grit and we were tough enough to live in Vermont, and we've been doing just that for 5 years now. But the real problem, which people have brought up before, I was the one who was personally threatened in 2022, so it ties right in with why we're here today. We wouldn't be here in this room had I not been threatened personally. And, you know, it was after a time that we had been told it was one of the worst mud seasons we'd seen in decades. We survived it, but our road was a disaster. And I simply got on the town website, looked for the phone number I thought would work. Road commissioner, you know, left a nice voicemail, my information, just said, hey, I didn't know if we could get some help. You know, it's a mess. By that time, it was midsummer. The roads were great otherwise. Frankly, I got a phone call that was anything but pleasant. I was talked down to, I was belittled. I was asked where I was from, how long I've lived here, and whether I was associated with Mike Hill, as if any of those things were a negative thing. And you know, he was just a neighbor at that time. I didn't really know anybody. You know, we moved here with hopes and dreams, but nothing more than our possessions. We didn't know a soul in town. And so you have to understand, being in my position, being brand new in town, trying to raise a family, build a new house, you know, to have that be the first interaction with my town, and somebody who's, you know, in a
15
position
seconds.
for a select board to talk to me that way was just really disheartening.
John, I think that's, you're good.
Can I speak
3
again
seconds.
later? Okay. I have a lot more to
Yeah.
say.
I want to just remind everybody that this is a hearing about reclassifying the South Bear Swamp Road from Class 4 to Class 3.
Yep.
So any comments should be pertinent to that specifically.
Just getting there.
We'll give you another chance. Let's, do we have the sign-up sheet, or did that just go around and lay somewhere? Yeah. Well-
thought it was like, it's like a grooming list.
Totally take that.
Oh, this is the sign up?
Like it's already full and going
Oh,
back
good.
around.
Oh, well. I can cross my
I know,
name
I know
Do you-
Steve, so
Do you-
I
yeah, I
can
was gonna say that.
remember him. Let's start from the start.
Oh, I signed it wrong.
All right.
Yeah.
Well, I'll give everybody a chance. So Sarah, do you want to wait then? Because you've got John and then Sarah.
Oh, sure, I didn't know we were signing up to speak on it, we just thought we were signing up as two, citizen.
That's all right. So the next person on the sign-up sheet, yeah, did you want to speak, Betsy?
No, I thought it was very tentative.
Okay, sorry, guys.
I will speak for just a second.
All right, Betsy, you've got 3 minutes. It has to be about the reclassification of the South Bear Swamp Road.
Correct.
Yep.
The only thing I have to say is that I think that when folks come to town and buy property on a class 4 road, it doesn't seem reasonable to me, no matter what they're doing or how they're doing their family, to decide that it should be upgraded. I think it changes the whole character of the town. I think it's a precedent that should not be set. And I think it's a terrible idea.
Okay.
Period.
Thank you, Betsy. That's Betsy Davis. All right, the next person on the list is Charles Merriman. Do you want to make it?
Yeah, I would like to speak, yeah.
Please do.
My personal view, 3 minutes.
3 minutes.
The way you were treated by that select board member, you're right, excuse me. The way he was treated by the select board member is inexcusable. That town, and that's the reason he lost his job, because he was terrible.
Yep.
And he's a sexist, horrible person, and he was wrong. And the board owes this family an apology for the actions of a previous board. If he behaved like that, and I believe he did. If there were no financial considerations, and I don't know what the financial considerations are, I would support this notion of bringing up the road. I like the people who live on that road. I understand it. They've got this incredibly long dirt road to drive anyway, and on top of that, a class 4 road. That's tough. But there's one fatal problem with upgrading this road, and that is it will create a precedent that you will not be able to overcome when subsequent people seek to upgrade their road from class 4 to class 3. And I don't mean just the people at the end of Zedon, and I don't mean just the people at the end of Leland Farm Road, both of whom have evidenced an interest in upgrading. I'm also talking about private roads. All of these things will become a subject you'll have to deal with, and you will not be able to delineate, you will not be able to prescribe this decision in a way that inoculates you from those other requests. So this is a floodgate. You open it, and the town turns into a Williston. We might as well get go the charter route and say that if you build a road to specifications, the town is obligated to accept it as a public road. That's the fatal flaw with this whole argument. Therefore, I am against it, notwithstanding the fact that I wish these guys had a better road.
Thank you, Charlie. All right, the next person on the list is Matt.
Do I need to give written copies of what I'm planning, or is it an aid if I want this in the record to hand out these to you?
You can go ahead and hand them out to us, but I think that verbally it'll be in the record. Carol's taking minutes, so.
I'm just
But-
going to leave these here for you guys. I'll start reading and you can start my 3 minutes. But I want to draw attention to the statute that I've included on this, which is specifically about after a decision has been made to reclassify. So if we chose to upgrade from 4 to 3 for self-bear swamp, the Vermont statute is very clear that petitioners can be held responsible. The select board could choose to hold the petitioners responsible for paying for bringing it up to code so that it can be maintained. It's explicitly written so that the town does not either have to upgrade or bear any of the costs of performing that upgrade. As Charlie just spoke to, and I'm not going to read off all of this, what's unique about Self-Bear Swamp that doesn't apply to Notch Road, to Bushy Road, to any of the other class 4 roads we have families living, or my driveway, which has 4 homes off it, and it's 0.2 miles. If we upgrade South Bear Swamp, we're going to have to upgrade all of these. And if we pay to upgrade South Bear Swamp, we'll have to pay to upgrade all of these others. I would love to hear a unique reason. I'd love for them to get their upgraded road, but this is the reality of where we are. So,
You have 2 more minutes. Are you sure, Matt?
Yep.
Okay. All right. The next person on our list to speak is Hal Elms.
It's me.
Hi, Hal.
Thank you. My comments are not legal. I think we have plenty of lawyers already, but more around the economics of reclassification and climate change and forest fragmentation. So if we, and the precedent that would be set by this, I think if we were to go through this list and reclassify all these roads, which we may be required to do in the future, with that precedent, that the budget will be challenged for taking care of the roads due to climate change and the torrential rainfall that we should expect. It may be next week, it may be next year, it may be in 5 years, we have no idea. But precedent would show that it's happening more frequently. So there's a budgetary concern around it, and also if these were to get reclassified, I would be concerned with the forest fragmentation piece of it and the wildlife corridors that these roads hold. So again, I'm not this is not a legal thing, it's more just, I would request that the board consider what those ramifications are to those particular topics. Thank you.
Thank you, Hal. Okay, the next person on the list is Blanche. Did you want to speak, or were you were just signing up? Okay, sorry. Some people were confused whether it was a sign-up sheet and some people wanted to speak. Shelley, did you want to speak?
Sure, we didn't know what we were signing, I thought you had to sign.
Sure, well, Shelley Desjardins, you know about,
Comment.
yeah.
We've been here since the 60s, and the only thing I remember is that back in the old days, Notch Road, probably the whole Notch Road almost looked like Leland Farm Road or South Bear Swamp. And back then, I think it was a class 3. And I remember some of the roads, some of the residents would ask to have it turned into a class 4 because they moved out of state and they don't want people going down the road because they're afraid of theft. You know, so things had changed. It used to be just a matter of calling the road commissioner or calling up whoever's on the road crew at the time. So I think things have evolved. My biggest concern, of course, is safety, and how many houses are on the road, and fire trucks and ambulances getting there. So I can see a concern, especially with my mother living with me, of why residents would want the road upgraded. You know, so I mean, whether it be a class 3 or class 4, the biggest thing that I'd be concerned in is some kind of maintenance so that the roads are passable.
On all class 4s.
Class 4 and class 3, you know.
Thank you, Shelley. Okay.
Yeah.
Did you want to speak? No? Michelle, no? Aaron, that means you're up. Oh, do you want to speak?
No.
Okay. Eric, are you sure you don't want to say anything?
Not yet.
Okay. Aaron, you're up.
Just a little clarity, I guess. Sandy was nice enough to send me all these documents in advance, so I kind of read through them, and I see there is kind of a proposal or a kind of a draft about editing the policy for class 4.
We are working on it, yeah.
Is this matter tonight going on the policy that's in place now, or is this going to be tabled until there's a new policy? I'm just kind of curious where the board sees that.
So,
We'll pause your time, Aaron.
Yeah, yeah.
To answer that,
I didn't, it wasn't
our
right.
hopes were to have the new updated policy prior to this meeting, was our hopes. As usual, our meetings go 2-3 hours with a bunch of new agenda items, and unfortunately, we did not make the headway we hoped to, even from a month ago when we had started it. We only meet 2 times a month, and we did not. So that's where the current document, working document.
and I would add to that since then, we have found a 2003 road ordinance that is against state policy, and then an upgraded one from 2017 that we haven't even been able to look at yet. So in this whole process of redoing the class 4, and now we've got a whole road ordinance to look at as well.
There's been a lot of new, old information that's been in plain sight, admittedly in plain sight, that we as a lot of new board members weren't fully aware of. And that has really changed, not just opinions, but kind of the way that we're looking at that working draft as well.
Yeah, we've had a lot of things come up, including a road that apparently we need to downgrade to a trail that was class 4, but both the houses got wiped out in FEMA. So the select board, being on the select board is like drinking from a fire hose, and we catch everything we can. The reason we're here tonight is because of statutes and a certain number of days after something is called for, and warnings, and this is that. So this is a special hearing for tonight on the reclassification of South Bear Swamp Road.
I have a different answer.
Okay, go ahead,
Can
Stacy.
I take a chance?
Sure.
So after the last hearing on the reclassification of 0.7 miles of South Bear Swamp, which reflects the through portion from East Bear Swamp to the class 3 portion of South Bear Swamp, that was on April 28th. The advice that the board received from both the Planning Commission and the Conservation Commission was that our policy regarding the reclassification and upgrade of class 4 roads really needed to be updated and clarified. Before we had even begun that process in earnest, another member of this board other members of this board had met with Mike Hill and then set a special meeting to decide whether to hold this second hearing on the 0.3 miles of South Bear Swamp Road. That was warned for and held at 9 a.m. on Saturday morning before our second town meeting addressing the budget petition. On a 3-2 vote, it was agreed to go forward with this hearing that we are having today. At the time that vote was taken, the policy was nowhere near complete, and in fact, after workshopping, we now realize that there's a lot more to do and to address. And there's also a highway ordinance from 2003 that we need to reconcile with. We need to get our house in order. I say that because I do not agree with I did not vote for this hearing tonight. I voted against it because our policy was not updated and our house was not in order, but it went forward anyways. So I think there's more context there. The board has not been entirely transparent, or rather moved forward very quickly, more so than I think was really necessary under the circumstances. But in an effort to respect that the board is a governing body, that they only need a majority to move forward with things, that's why we're here today. But, it's complicated, and we do need to fix our policy. We do need to fix the ordinance. We're in an ambiguous situation today because of the fact that we scheduled this hearing before having that done. So I know that's different than the...
No, that's fine.
That's the minority view, but I think it's important to mention for just trying to make this as clear as I can.
And I would simply add to that as you heard earlier, there are lawyers involved in this, and so there was a certain amount of pressure and fear behind our decision-making. Okay. All right. Do you have any other, go ahead.
The clock's back on.
Yeah, I'll turn it right back on. Hold on. Let me get it.
I didn't.
Go ahead.
I didn't know half of what was going on. I know a little bit more, but I'm sure not even tip of. As a member of the town, I definitely feel like this whole topic should be tabled. I can understand people wanting to upgrade their road, but this isn't the time. Get the house in order. I agree with. And just reading the drafts and some of the, I have plenty of comment on where we go with the policy, with this draft policy, and I don't need to get into that because that's not what it is tonight.
Right.
But
careful, your enthusiasm might turn into a new committee.
it's an important topic.
Absolutely.
If I have to be part of a committee,
Great.
I'd do that. So.
Thank you. Okay, Roger Hurt?
Yes. but I just thought I was signing up for attendance. But no, I couldn't say it any better than Charlie or Aaron did. I think we need some time to ponder this, some time to explore the expenses. I don't know. These two other guys have already said more than I can, so I'll,
Add your name to the,
yeah.
wonderful, thank you. Steve?
I've definitely taken my 3 minutes.
All right, go right ahead.
All right, so I'd first like to start off by, just saying that I appreciate the board recognizing that the house is not in order and that things need to be fixed. That being said, I have a few facts I'd like to share with the group because I feel like there's a lot of information that is not being shared that is correct.
As long as it pertains to the South
I would
Bear
ask you
Swamp.
to not violate my First Amendment right, and I'm going to reclaim my time for your interruption.
Go right ahead.
Thank you. Okay, so starters, one of the reasons why the road is in the shape that it's in is because the town has failed for the last 23 years to follow their own road policy. So Highway 14, which is South Bear Swamp, is listed on our road policy as being maintained. Okay, not to mention that there are several pieces of legislation that require the drainage, the course, and the flow of the roadway to be maintained. Okay, so if the town had actually maintained the road the way the law requires them to, and the way our own road policy says that they do, the road would not be in the disrepair shape that it is in right now for the residents to be requesting the upgrade in the first place. So I feel like it's been, and it's certainly not this particular board, but the board representatives of the past have let the residents of South Bear Swamp down and in a real hard way. And that is now putting all the grievance on the rest of the town for this decision. I just feel like it's also very disappointing that knowing some of these facts as they look through all these road concerns that have happened over the last several years, that nobody from the select board has made an effort to correct any of the misinformation being spread around on places like Front Porch Forum, right? Like, you guys are our leadership of this town. You should be correcting incorrect statements and false information that people are claiming is true about our town, our roadways, and our residents, right? Like, you're here to represent all of us and to protect us from literally everything and to take care of our roads, among a lot of other things. So to just allow neighbors to attack other neighbors without interjecting with corrected, accurate information is just a very disappointing thing for me to see on such a regular basis. That's all.
That's it?
Yep.
Okay, thank you so much for that, Steve. Does any of the board members want to speak to that at all? Okay. I am going to say that we do have certain rules and regulations of we can't talk to each other as a group, so sometimes it's very difficult for us to say, as much as I agree with you, I wish we had more information to be sending out to the public. That's one of the things that we're doing with the town administrator, where we're hoping to have like a weekly update and some information. But there are laws that keep us from.
Right, but you don't have to act as a group, and that's why it's so disappointing, right? If you individually.
But individually, if we're doing something
right.
on social media, then it goes out to the rest of the group, and it can be, we have to follow these rules, Stephen, believe me, some of them kill me too.
I've taken the class as well from BTLC.
Okay.
There's nothing preventing you from doing that.
All right, thank you so much for your comments. Does anybody else have anything to say? Sandy?
Why don't you go shower and then you can back?
I'm not sure who you are, but I'm muting you. Sandy?
Sorry, I'm Sandy Levine. I have both comments from the Planning Commission, and I'd also like to make a few comments of my own. I'll start with the Planning Commission. The Planning Commission submitted some comments prior to the previous meeting about an upgrade to the entirety of the Class 4 section of South Bear Swamp. Fundamentally, it recommended that the Commission, that the Select Board both look at language in our town plan regarding Class 4 roads and some examples from other towns and have some standards in place before any upgrade be considered or move forward. And I appreciate that the Select Board is moving forward and with a new Class 4 road policy. I think that will be very helpful. Now, I'll turn around. This is Sandy Levine as Sandy on South Bear Swamp. I also live on South Bear Swamp, on the Class 3 section of South Bear Swamp. And I will just say individually, it's really hard for me to speak at this meeting. These are all my neighbors who live on the Class 4 section. I know them all. They see me nearly every day when I walk. But that said, I do think that it's ill-advised for the Select Board to move forward on its own to upgrade this section of South Bear Swamp. I hope, going forward, that the town can get to a place where it can routinely, maybe once a year or so, fix roads up sufficient for people to kind of get through. But to upgrade the Class 4 roads to a Class 3 standard is ill-advised. I'm speaking in part as a member of the road committee. Come to any road committee meeting. We have people on Class 3 roads saying, please fix our road. We can't get through. And for the town to be taking on additional responsibility when we're not even meeting the responsibilities we already have, I think is ill-advised. And I also, as the Planning Commission suggested, I think that there should be policies in place that guide what are your standards for upgrading a road. And I don't think we have that yet. Thank you.
Thank you, Sandy. John Lund, right?
Yes.
Like to speak again? Go right ahead.
Thought, since the threat in 2022, we've actually worked for about 4 years, coming to the board a few different times. And I think my fear is that if we don't make necessary changes with policies or right the wrongs that were done by previous administrations, we're not going to protect people that may be feeling like they're treated as a second-class citizen. And it also comes down to safety, and we've brought this up many times. And then I want to bring in the climate side of things. I mean, we walked it today, you see the sediment washing into our waterways. That's not environmentally friendly either. When you have a Class 3 road, you have standards, there's state money that helps go towards those things. There's different things that get taken care of that are more environmentally responsible. And so I'm open to the idea of creating maybe a Class 4 coalition, or anybody who's experienced things like we have to come together and help shape some of these policies, not just special interests that may be in town or small groups that seem to have a hand in everything this town does, and I don't blame them because there's not a lot of people volunteering for that, I understand, but I think we should all come to the table with discussion. And so ultimately, if nothing else happens today, I hope that this hearing sparks further discussion about progressive policies that may shape our town. We have to, Vermont's in a lot of trouble. We have to find ways to bring people to our town. We have to find ways to expand our tax base a little bit. If my neighbor who's retired decides to move away, and the only thing that turns away a young family with kids that could help our schools, which are also struggling, the road being that roadblock just seems kind of ridiculous to me. I mean, we're in a place where, we're all just trying to live our lives. And I wouldn't be here today, like I said, I'm not here asking for special treatment, but I wouldn't be here today if we weren't really concerned of our safety. The threat in 2022, for those that don't know, it was to downgrade us. You told me he might turn us into a trail. Obviously, at the time, I don't know if that was possible, but I took that as a legitimate threat, and he never refuted it. There's never been somebody saying, oh no, that can't happen, other than sort of saying that. But there's nobody's come to me and said, that will never happen to you. So I'm here after 4 years of being worried of my family and my neighbor's livelihood. I mean, this is our lifeline. Our road is our lifeline. And so if it weren't for that threat, we wouldn't be here today. And so I'm just asking for, moving forward, we need progress in some ways. Policy, we're asking for an upgrade because of that fear of some overzealous board member or special interest downgrading us. Thank you.
Thank you, John. Does anybody, Matt, go right ahead.
I think I've mentioned this previously, but I'd like to make a couple of comments. There are towns that are downgrading Class 4 roads to trails. It's common throughout Vermont. It has to do with the fact that the state legislature has rules about what kind of drainage and other things need to be applied. It's not out of spite, it's because these towns cannot bear the cost of maintaining those roads. I am uncomfortable with the discussion about what a prior road commissioner may or may not have been done. From everything that I hear, there's good reason to believe that it happened. I have no idea how it had any bearing on this discussion about whether or not we ought to upgrade a Class 4 road to Class 3. It does not seem material to me. A Class 4 road means that the town does not maintain it, period, beyond these drainage and other things that the state has had. So I don't understand how it's material what someone did or did not do on a Class 4 road.
Thank you, Matt. Before you go, Michael's iPad, go ahead. Whoever.
Hi, yeah, can you hear me?
Yes, who is this?
It's Michael Levine.
Levine. Okay, thank you, Michael. Go ahead.
Sure. I also live on Southwest Swamp Road. What options does the board have following this hearing? Like, can you table it? Is there a time limit for decision? What options are you looking at?
We have a lot of options. At the end of this, we have to, at the end of this, I call for a motion. And if there's two motions, then we go to vote. And what happens, happens. That's what's happening.
Wait, I don't even understand what you just said. What do you mean two motions? What would they do?
So when at the end of this, as the chair, I will say, is there a motion to reclassify South Bear Swamp Road to Class 3? One of the board members has to say, I make that motion. A second board member has to second it. And then we go to a vote. If there is no motion or only one motion, then it dies. And
oh, sorry, Michael.
So you don't have the I'm sorry.
It's okay, I was just gonna say, it's distinguishable, there's no petition. If this was a statutory petition process, we would be obligated to issue a written decision within 60 days.
we still do.
Even in this case?
Yes.
If you decide to reclassify, you
If
have,
there's a motion.
either way.
So if there is no motion?
Yes, we still have to do
Then we
60
still have
days
to
to,
read. Okay.
yes.
You can make a as Zara just described it, you can do that tonight.
Yeah.
You don't have to, but, and if you vote no, the matter just kind of dies, because there's no order to put in to the town clerk's office, because you're not reclassifying it. A vote to reclassify requires findings and a written order, regardless of whether this was by statutory petition or whether it was by the
On our
select
own
board's own
motion.
motion. You've got to do that anyway, so I just want to clarify.
Thank you, Rob.
Sorry, Michael, I didn't mean to hijack your question.
Well, so it sounds then like you don't have the option of waiting to render a decision. You have to do that at the end of this meeting, one way or the other.
That's not accurate, Michael. The select board has up to 60 days to issue a decision if it chooses to wait that long. It has to act within 60 days of the end.
So Zara does not need to call for a motion at the end of this hearing?
She doesn't have to, but she has the right to do that as the acting chair of this proceeding, yeah.
Okay, so I'm just trying to play this out a little bit. If the board does decide to do the upgrade, then what are you committing the town to? Because as far as I know, you don't have cost estimates, you don't have timetables or anything else. So what would that mean for the town if in fact you approve this tonight?
Michael, Paul can answer a little bit of that for you.
So, Michael, I've done, along with Eric, we have done a substantial amount of estimating. Currently, so folks know, and I mentioned out at the meeting, it would look like essentially a 33-77 split, privately funded and town funded. The 33 being the town, the 77 being privately funded. That number on...
Oh, that's 110.
Oh, I'm sorry, 30 and 70. I'm sorry. I'm on the spot here. So at this point, the town's share would essentially look like a ballpark of $10,000 of actual monetary dollars and about 2 to 3 weeks of the town's time. That would be their full portion of what it would cost at the current layout of how things have gotten to this point.
And is there an obligation of when to do the work once you make the approval? If you make the approval?
Not that I'm aware of.
I don't know that.
Nobody knows
Michael.
the answer to that, Michael.
Well, once you have a class 3 road, you've got to have class 3 standards.
Yeah, we would essentially do, it would be proposed to be done within this working construction season, the summer of '26.
So that would replace work that's already on the schedule, I assume.
It would get
Correct.
shoehorned in, 100% correct.
Okay, thank you.
Michelle?
Michelle Johnson. So say you vote to do this and it's a 30-70 split and the road becomes a class 3 and then the town is held liable for taking care of that road no matter what. So now you have a class 3 road the town has to take care of, and now you have dollars that you have to put forth for that. What happens if the 70% is not taken care of? Do you enter into a contract with the homeowners on this road for that? I mean, is that legal to
We
do?
are able to contractually bind, we are able to hold them responsible for the 70%, and it would be essentially contingent on their portion. We have figured out that we can hold them liable for that.
Right.
And we can essentially write it, vote it as such.
So then if that's the case, an additional,
I don't agree with that. I'm sorry, I don't agree with that.
Okay?
So that's, as we're saying,
If
more
you had a
work.
legal petition in front of you, Paul would be absolutely right, but I don't,
That was my
if
next
the select
question.
board is proceeding on its own motion, which it is, my reading of the statute is you can only hold the landowners who are benefiting from this responsible for the costs is if there's a valid petition. That can be a condition of your order, but the only way you can bind whoever it is you're talking about to pay 70% of the cost of this is for them to make that offer and for you to accept it and there to be some kind of agreement on it.
So I printed out that if we're making the motion tonight, that it's written so that it does basically approve the reclassification of South Bear from Class 4 to Class 3, condition upon the petitioner bearing all costs associated
Right,
with
but you don't
upgrading.
have a petitioner. That's what I'm saying.
Gotcha.
You,
So again, more can of worms, as we can see, that are being opened the more we hear. Sarah?
I have a question before my 3 minutes.
Sure.
About what we're discussing. I know Mike Hill has submitted that offer in writing.
Mhm.
Does that constitute or does that operate
Be-
as what you were needing to have a binding contract?
I haven't
don't
seen,
know.
I haven't seen any offer in writing. I haven't seen a formal offer. I know that Mike has sent emails to the board that I've been copied on where he's offered to pay for like 2/10 of a mile of it and for the town to pay for 1/3 of a mile. I'm sorry, 1/3 of the.
1/10.
But that's what I know. I've never seen a written agreement. I've never seen
If
anything
that
else.
written agreement was drafted, where would that leave you?
Well, okay, so I think normally what we've been asking Mike Hill to do since he first brought this up, not this select board, but select boards past, is that normally to bring this to a special hearing, you need 75 names on a petition.
So can I guess, if it's okay,
Mhm.
that's part of what I was gonna speak on.
Okay.
And Rob, I know you were part of it, and maybe I'll just say it now.
So we waived the 75 to have this hearing, but that does change the way things go legally, as Rob is pointing out. So go ahead.
Can I ask, because, so, bear with me, I get a little nervous, and I'm gonna try also not to get emotional about this, because quite frankly, I'm really tired, and I feel very othered and discriminated against from a lot of members of this community and on social media. And that's not what I moved into and what I try to fight for, teach my children or teach my students, quite frankly. So it's a, bear with me, I am Ruth Bader Ginsburg, speaking when your voice shakes. We were told, even when I came to the first meeting in 2022, that there were 2 ways to appeal for this. And one was by petition, and one was by appealing to the board. Based on what transpired, which you heard my husband speak about, we felt the best approach due to our own security and well-being was to appeal to the board at the time. That was also reiterated that it could be done both ways legally on January 20th. In 2026 hearing, I posted that video on Front Porch Forum as well to show that Rob had said that, as well as the board. So there are 2 ways. So I know we keep going back to the petition, but we were told by the board and your legal counsel that we could do it either way.
It's true, you're right.
So to be here, that's right.
But there's
Right.
consequences for either way.
Exactly. But now, right, we're under the question if there was a written agreement. So that is part of that.
Zara, excuse me, Zara, I don't know how to raise my hand, but if it would be helpful for me to weigh in, it might be.
What you do is you go down to that little heart under React and you click that, and then there's a raised hand option. But is this Mike Hill?
Yeah.
Are you done? Wait.
Yeah.
Before you start, Mike?
Yeah, raised it.
Okay, great, perfect. Before you start, are you done?
If he can help with that part, and then I'll go after.
Okay, Mike.
That's important.
Keep it short, please, and keep it pertinent. Thank you.
You talking to me now?
Yes, please go ahead.
Yeah, Rob, since January 8th, in a email to Rob, I have in writing made this offer, and I have consistently made that offer to Paul as well. Rob responded on January 9th that he didn't have any authority to even discuss settlement. But no, I have offered in writing since January 8th to pay for the first 0.2 miles of this. I've gotten estimates for it. I've worked with Paul on that. That hasn't been raised yet. I've offered since 2019 to pay for the first 0.1, and since January of this year to pay for the first 0.2. Nobody in Middlesex's history, to my knowledge, has ever done that or been required to do that. The town is being asked to pay for the remaining roughly 0.1 to help 3 families. Now, that's 0.1 miles for 3 families. You have made the decision that it's in the public good to help 1 family go more than a half a mile. So where you're being asked tonight, let's be very clear.
What are you talking about, Michael?
You're saying that you don't think it's fair to go 0.3 miles, or no, 0.1 miles to help 3 families who have paid taxes. And despite the town's statement in November 25, those 3 families do not get a tax break because they're on class 4 roads. That was an incorrect statement that I've asked the town to correct since February. And I agree with John Lund's statement. I think the class 4 families should get together and work. And I do resent, and I'm not going to get into it, the Facebook post of placing me against another class 4 family. I have said that we should be like Newfane, Vermont, no wealthier than we are. They know that every single house should be plowed to, and every single house is on a class 3 road. And they've turned their class 4s into trails. So I really resent, Rob, I will tell you out loud, that I resent you saying you've never seen an offer from me in writing. So everybody on the website tonight, look at turn.org/Vermont/Middlesex, and you will see a January 8th offer from me and a January 9th response from Rob. I will not even discuss it with you, nor has the town discussed it. That's not how people behave elsewhere. And it's not how Vermont behaved when I left here 40 years ago.
20 seconds.
I have said this before, and I'm sorry if y'all think it's toxic, but the way I have behaved is the way people normally do. You try to work things out. You say, if we can't, I'm afraid we might have to go to litigation. But short of that, you work on settlement, and you don't say, I'm not going to discuss settlement with you. And once you've said that, you don't say he never made an offer when it's shown on the website, which you've been invited to look at
Mike! Mike!
For months.
Mike! Mike!
Just mute him. Just mute him.
Incorrect. And you should look at what the Trails Committee.
Is that legal to just mute
Okay,
him?
I'm gonna stop there, but please.
All right.
Can I just briefly respond?
Okay, I'm going to have our lawyer, Rob, briefly respond to the accusations that were just
I
put
don't need
placed.
3 minutes. Mike is right, that he sent me an email back in January where he indicated that he would be willing to pay for a portion of the upgrade if there was a reclassification, and that we could settle on those grounds. And I wrote back to him and said, I have no authority to enter into settlement negotiations, because in order to do that, I would need to speak to the board. There would have to be a meeting, because I can't just speak to the board. And that's how that left. What I was saying a few minutes ago is I haven't seen any binding written offer with an amount. I've heard promises up until 5 minutes ago in this hearing where this information is supposed to come out. I haven't heard a thing about money. So all I'm saying is that without a petition, the select board would be proceeding at peril to condition a reclassification on an expectation that either Mike or his neighbors or some combination or all of them would contribute 2/3 of the cost here, because if they decide not to do that, there's precious little under the law that would allow the board to enforce that.
Do you
And what I'm
understand?
saying is, as a matter of the legalities here, I don't know, there may have been discussions between Mike and members of the select board that have a lot more concrete financial information that I've been privy to. I can only speak to what I know, and in my discussions with Mike and with other board members, which is, yes, Mike has many times agreed to pay for a portion of the upgrade cost. He's never mentioned a figure, and his percentages of what portion of the road have changed over time, and that's his right. But we don't have a binding agreement to have private residents pay for a portion of this upgrade, and I just want to make sure that if the select board is proceeding based on some other assumption, you might want to rethink it.
Okay.
Okay?
And I do, before anybody else speaks, I just want to add to that, that having residents of a Class 4 road pay for the work to make it a Class 3 road, that's not unusual. That's a common thing. So this isn't like, boop, brand new, but I've been doing the research.
It's quite common, and it's quite often done when there's been a legal petition filed as well. And our highway policy, our old highway ordinance from 2003 speaks to that, I believe.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to speak? You wanted to finish?
Bear with me. So something that I want to point out, and I think has been touched on, so I'll try to keep it brief, but is about the gray area that our Class 4s have fallen into. And that since we purchased our property, there has been an extraordinary amount of ambiguity about what Class 4 road status actually means, and very confusing for us residents. We were initially told that when we purchased our land, that the road would be graded at least twice a year. And when we purchased, the condition it was at, we were completely fine with, and we understood that. We have planned our lives accordingly and got our own snowplow and have taken care of it ever since. And then when things happened, right, weather or things that we know happen here, happened and eroded our road, we did what we needed to do to maintain it. We have been told since then by other board members that we did need permission to do particular things on that road, which does kind of bind us and put us in a very tricky situation because of how our road is eroding. So what I'm asking is not just for our road to be upgraded for a sense of safety for my family, but beyond this specific road is that this town develop a policy on Class 4 roads that is clear, concise, and publicly available, that one that minimizes the opportunity for bias and self-dealing, that no resident should have to come before this board and navigate contradictory guidance, personal feuds, or social media harassment to understand their rights. A policy that protects residents, And that also, quite frankly, protects the board from a lot of these things that are happening. Also, something else that is pertinent to the road, and I know that I've posted this also and it was talked about, was that our road technically is a through road. It connects to East Bear Swamp, and there have been times that it has been the only way that emergency services would have accessed 24 homes being built now, 25 homes down South Bear Swamp. And so it is very important, and it is a through road. And the last time that a road like that came up, and this was McCullough Hill, and there was a petition, but they were not expected to pay for any of that. That's on town record as well. And we are offering to pay. And Mike's offer started at like 1.1 of the road and now has gone up. So it's not that he's taking it back or saying that he would pay for less. Also, just something else, on the argument of precedent, and this is kind of how it's always been, mentality, I'm sorry, but I don't really see that as an argument. And I see that as a point of view. And if we ran our town solely on that precedent, you know, think about what things wouldn't have changed, right? Our schools wouldn't be integrated. Women wouldn't have the right to vote. The roads would be maintained as they were 260 years ago when this town was founded. But that's not where we are right now, and we don't need to run our town as such. Progress is not a betrayal of tradition, and our children, our residents, are not a line item on a spreadsheet. Thank you.
Thank you, Sarah. Liz?
Hey, guys.
Liz, go right ahead.
Yeah, can you hear me okay?
Yep. Loud
Okay.
and clear.
Thanks. So I just wanted to respond to the payment piece of this, that if the motion were to pass and the expectation was that that 0.3 section would get upgraded, I think that the motion would have to say that that would be contingent upon the residents doing, that the town would give permission to the residents to upgrade that section to a Class 3 standard that would ultimately get approved by the town once the work was done. So the town wouldn't actually general contract and manage the work. The residents would do that. And so that's where we wouldn't be expecting to get paid back for work that we contracted out, but rather we would give them permission to make changes to the road that bring it up to standards that we would approve as Class 3.
Thank you, Liz. Rob, is that your understanding?
That's certainly possible. All I'm saying is that you can do that if the residents agree to that. If they don't agree to that, then you cannot require them to do that. So in other words, if the select board votes to reclassify this section of the road, conditioned on somebody, whether it's all the residents there or one resident, agreeing to act as general contractor and bring the road up to Class 3 standards for the town's approval, and to do it at their cost or a portion of the cost, that could be binding if you put that in the order and the neighbor agrees to do it, the resident or the group of residents. But you can't bind them to do it. Whereas if you had a petition, you could require that as part of your written order, and they would have to do that or risk that if they didn't do it, the select board would likely then, at a future date, reclassify that road again to Class 4 because the work wasn't done.
Okay.
Okay? So yeah, anything can be done if people agree to it and volunteer. And we've heard evidence of offers, you know, and that's fine. And if there's some kind of binding agreement to get this done, then you're all set, and the money's taken care of.
Does anybody else have any statements or testimony?
Go ahead.
Go ahead, you haven't spoken yet.
Samantha Goodwin. I live on a Class 4 road, not South Bear Swamp Road, but I just wanted to comment that I do support the upgrade. I think I want to, it's been said, and some of my comments are on other people's comments, but I think it's important to understand that there are laws that do require certain maintenance of roads. So I want to make sure it's clear there is maintenance that's required on a Class 4 road. So it's not like, hey, you're on a Class 4 road, the town does nothing for you, because that is not the case. And I think that it's important, even you had mentioned Class 3 roads, I think it's important all roads are maintained the way they should be so it's safe and residents can get to their homes. And if it's more money, I mean, it's more money. We all pay taxes and roads are high. That's where most of our taxes go. That I think is a very important factor that should be looked at here. Like, because I bought on a Class 4 road, but my Class 4 road isn't a town policy that says it's maintained. And I was also told, like, these roads are also graded. So I think it's a factor that should be played in here, that these are also maintained, just not to the same standard as a Class 3. I just want to get that out there. And I also want to mention, I don't agree with waiting on the policy updates. I think the board that we have in place now is great. You guys are like tackling stuff really good. But policy updates are time consuming, as you guys know. And you mentioned the 2003 policy and the Class 4 road policy. That can take years. You know, it could fall on other select board members, and just putting stuff off for years doesn't seem right. And I'm sure there's been other roads that have been upgraded or downgraded in this town, and I don't know the details on that. And I just wanted to mention I don't think we should wait on that. But yeah, that's all I have. Thanks.
Rob, do you want to speak on the efficacy of that statement?
No, I think I have a different view than the speaker does about the town's requirement to maintain Class 4 roads. I don't believe the town has a requirement.
There's literally legislation. I'd be more than happy to show it to you after this meeting.
That'd be great.
Culverts and bridges. I don't think it's anything.
It's culverts, bridges,
If I may
and
finish.
ditches, but then.
Stop, okay, stop. Let Rob finish before.
Also, in the current
Steve!
policy,
Let him finish. That's his First Amendment
Go
right,
ahead,
and
no,
then
you
you
can.
can speak. Go ahead, Rob.
I'm sure that many people would disagree with me, and they have the right to. I'm only speaking from my personal and professional experience. My personal and professional experience is that, and I'm fairly familiar with the highway statutes. Class 3 roads have certain standards. The select board has to maintain those roads up to certain standards because you get state aid for those roads. You get no state aid for Class 4 highways. There is a statute that says that the select board, the town shall maintain Class 4 highways to the extent that it deems is required. That doesn't mean you have to do it. It means that you have the discretion to maintain Class 4 highways to the extent you feel are necessary. And that could mean that you want to do maintenance on one Class 4 highway because of certain reasons and do none on another for other reasons, and that's perfectly legal. There is also a statute that states that where legally required, a town shall keep all culverts and bridges in good working order. Some people, I think the gentleman next to me would probably hold this view, some people hold the view that that statute means that even on Class 4 roads where you're not required to do any other maintenance, you have to take care of the bridges and culverts on a Class 4 road. I don't agree with that. I think it means that if you are required to maintain the road, you got to keep the bridges and culverts maintained. VLCT, who I don't always agree with, takes the same approach. And I don't know of any attorneys who have provided an opinion that Vermont requires any maintenance on Class 4 roads. There is a difference of opinion with respect to the bridges and culverts. And I have my own view of that, but that's my belief.
Okay, before you go, I want to hear from Liz. Liz, go ahead.
I actually just have a question. Stacy had mentioned earlier in the meeting
Then, you know what, Liz, in that case, if you have a question, can you hold so that Steve can finish this train of thought before we get on another one?
Sure, yeah.
Go ahead, Steve.
All right, so what Rob is referring to is 19 VSA subsection 302. And then the part about class 4s that he's referring to is specifically 19 VSA subsection 310B, which states that the class 4 highway may be maintained to the extent required by necessary public good and convenience. However, Title 19, Chapter 9, subsection Chapter 5 cites 19 VSA subsection 952. Under maintenance, the town shall properly maintain the drain, the ditch, or the water course and keep in good and sufficient repair. Upon notice and hearing, it is discontinued. That's for all roads, period. Doesn't matter the classification, okay?
Thank you, Steve.
And that statute, by the way, is specifically related to when the town feels that it's necessary to construct a ditch or water course.
It's not.
Okay.
That's what the statute says.
This is not going to be turned into an argument about that, so thank you both.
Yeah.
Liz?
Yeah, hi. I just had a question. When Stacy had mentioned, that it had come to light, there was some new, or like an old road ordinance. I just want to ask a question. I know that the most recent Class 4 and Trails policy, which was adopted in 2003 and then subsequently updated with its final update and last update, official update in 2017 when I was on the board. Are you saying there's also something called a road ordinance that we adopted that's different from this Class 4/Trails policy?
That is correct. And Matt, can you come a little closer and speak to that because all the audio is here?
So I, as a resident, wanted to understand what was happening with this.
Can you hear Liz?
As a first step, I went to our town website. I looked at the policy and ordinances section. Under highway, the first thing is the 2003 highway ordinance, which lays out a very detailed way in which petitioners can go about requesting that a Class 4 road be upgraded to Class 3. Very structured, leaves nothing to question, sort of a good argument. My understanding is that that was approved after the original, a couple of months after the original Trails policy, which this new 2017 Trails policy is just a language update and doesn't conflict or significantly change, and in no way suggests the highway ordinance policy doesn't apply. I've had comments from lawyers, I'm not a lawyer, who say that there may be things that are contrary to Vermont law. I can't speak to that, but the highway policy is on the website. It looks pretty good to me. I'm kind of shocked that it wasn't a core part of this conversation.
Yes.
So I'm sorry, is Matt saying that that policy is an entirely different looking thing than this Class 4 Trails policy?
Yes.
And it's technically an ordinance which never expires.
And it's technically an ordinance which never expires.
Yeah, Liz, I can talk a little bit because I was like, maybe this was a mistake. But no, it doesn't appear to be. The Class 4 road and trails policy was first adopted in March of 2003. And the highway ordinance, which contains similar, sometimes overlapping, but also at other times contradictory provisions, that was adopted by the board in May of 2003. And given the timing and the proximity, it seems pretty clear that the board was very aware that they were adopting a highway ordinance that said one thing, and they had also adopted a Class 4 road and trail policy that said another. Granted, highway ordinances are outward. I would defer to Rob on the difference between an ordinance and a policy, but my understanding is that the ordinance is outward facing and is in place until otherwise. There's a different procedure for enacting it, and the policy is internal, and it provides internal guidance for the town and its employees and officers as to how things are supposed to be run. And so the highway ordinance was adopted in 2003, and when I went back, I read the meeting minutes for each time that the Class 4 road and trails policy was updated, because it was updated in 2016 and it was updated again in 2017. And on neither of those occasions did the minutes indicate or recognize the existing ordinance or attempt to reconcile the Class 4 policy with the highway ordinance. And I'm really glad that Matt brought it to our attention. I've seen that link before. It just never dawned on me that we could have an ordinance and a policy that were so contradictory in existence together without having been addressed. And it's been that way for quite some time. So, yeah.
Aaron, did you have something? Did you have a comment?
I just, I really hope that the board doesn't move forward on reclassifying. I think it's definitely not ready to do such a thing. I've heard safety a lot. I'm not sure if we're talking about safety, being able to get an ambulance to these residents. If the residents are already willing to put 70% of this cost to upgrade, they should do so. Put the money in the road. They knew when they bought, they were on a Class 4 road, they needed to maintain it themselves. Fix the road up. Go by the advice of the road folks, so that you're not spending money where you shouldn't be. You're doing it properly, and move this topic down the line. Tonight's not the night to make any kind of decision on upgrading us to a Class 3. We are a ways from that, and I don't see the urgency. Everybody relax. It's been this way for decades. If there's a problem with the road, put your money in the road and fix it. And sounds like the gentleman on the computer and you folks are willing to put some money into the road. That's what needs to happen.
Thank you, Aaron. Sky.
Hi, I have a question around the gentleman on Zoom raised about property taxes, and there was a comment in the survey that went out about Class 4 roads that houses that are on Class 4 roads typically have lower assessments. And I was just wondering if you could speak, because that was new information to me, and just wondering if that's part of our policy or.
Is that true, Sam?
Not that I'm aware of, and I'm a lister.
Right, that's why I asked Sam. Sandy, you did the Class 4, you helped with the Class 4 policy.
I will speak to that
Please.
as a road committee member and the person who wrote most of that survey. And it was based on assessments are on fair market value of property, and the fair market value of a property on a Class 4 road on most circumstances is less than that same house being on a Class 3 road. So therefore, the taxes would be lower than it would be if it was on a Class 3 road. If that's mistaken, my bad, I own it.
Thank you, Sandy. What's your name?
Brian Redmond.
Brian Redmond?
Yep, just a comment to you, Aaron. The safety issue, I think, differs by road, to be honest with you, for us.
Brian, direct you here.
Us
Please.
in our situation, we live on the end of the Notch Road. The town Conservation Commission built a hiking trail and a hiking destination for Vermont visitors and residents. It's an incredible resource. We completely support that resource being there. But where the safety issue for us comes in is maintaining that road to a standard for the hikers, the walkers, the bikers, the birders. It can turn into a sheet of ice, and coming down that slope when there's people entering the town, accessing the town facility is a safety and a liability issue that I am concerned about long term.
Okay. Sarah?
Yeah, so just a couple things. I know there's been a lot of conversation around how this would benefit other residents of the town, and I do want to point out something that hasn't come up, is that actually a resident on our road has offered 200 acres of trails dating back to 2021 to the town, and that has been ignored. So that could be something, a trail access that already has been presented.
First I'm hearing of it.
That has not been addressed.
First I'm hearing of it.
Okay, I know that was in emails written as well. Also, I did look into the taxable and the, what we were talking about as far as listing and value, property value. There's not a whole lot of evidence that supports that the property value is lower. We do pay the exact same tax bracket as everyone else. I do question that even if we did upgrade and say that the property value went up, and so then our taxes would go up. Would that not bring more tax revenue to the town and actually benefit the entire town? That is just a question I have for those who argue it would be a negative. I would see it as a positive for our town.
We'd have to do the math to see what we gain and what we lose on.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh, sorry, I know I sat down, but I don't mind 3 minutes, right? Time, also.
Just a minute, Mike, we're not quite done with Sarah.
Sorry, Mike. Also for safety, us being a through road as well, we have Google Maps routes people up East Bear through South Bear often. We have rescued, and I will use the term rescued, multiple people who have gotten stuck on our road because of that. Single mothers with children, actually. Trucking companies and logging companies frequently use our road as well.
Okay, Mike, I'm going to give you 2 last minutes, and then I think we're going to wrap up the testimony and move on.
Unfortunately, there have been a number of things that need to be corrected, but I'll do my best. One is our road has already been declassified. There is a clear law nobody disputes to fix the culverts in the summer. And everybody who walked on our road April 28th knows that the culvert on the 0.5 section, that whole section, and Stacy Skadberg very candidly said it at the hearing, that whole road has been degraded since the time of the threat in 2022 from a 4 to a 3, just like our road has been degraded from a de facto 3 to a 4. And Stowe, the Planning Commission very much cherry-picked what other towns they looked at, because Stowe says if it looks like a class 3 when you buy it, it should be kept as a class 3. And Newfane said what I said earlier. But to the gentleman's comment about we knew, no, we didn't know, young man or sir. I was from out of town. The Lunds were from out of town. We bought here thinking, like everybody else in America, that the road would not be degraded, and certainly not following a threat and other things that are on our website. But understand, sir, Vermont passed.
Hey, Mike, you're talking to me, not to any sir. I'm a woman, so you're directing your comments to me.
All right, I'm going to post my comments on the website tomorrow. That'll be better, and I'll do it to Mr. Kelch, and it'll all be in writing. Everything will be available. There were 4 or 5 misstatements, inaccurate statements, and some of them intentionally so, that I will correct in a writing tomorrow, and everybody can look at it. But I'm really sorry things turned the way they did. And on the 200 acres, you have known, Zara. And
I don't know. This is the first I've heard of it. Don't tell me what I know and what I don't know. I can tell you what I know and know.
You've been told of it by me, and it's been on the website for 6 months, and you've been invited to look at the website. So, and look at what the Trails Committee did in 2021 on the website.
Okay, thank you, Mike. Is that it?
No, there's more, but I will respond tomorrow. There's a lot more.
Thank you, Mike. Thank you. Sir, what's your name?
My name is Kelton Olney. I live here in Middlesex, and it sounds like you've had a lot of opinions from lawyers and don't need another one, but I happen to be one.
Please, the more, the merrier.
We just can't wait.
I didn't come here with any notion pro or con, but what I'm hearing is a lot of unknowns. And I would urge the board to table this for now. As a resident of Middlesex, it strikes me as unfair to the community to pay any money to upgrade a road that homeowners knew was on a class 4 road when they bought the home, and then have their property go up in value. Maybe the town recoups some of that in increased taxes, but that's going to be over decades. I know when I'm representing clients and advising them that it's always wise to wait until you have as much information as possible. And what I'm hearing tonight is that the board really shouldn't feel like it's anywhere close to having sufficient information to make this really important decision. Thank you.
Thank you. Shelley?
I have done a lot of research because I think you guys have asked me more than once, and I cannot find anywhere where people living on a class 4 road pay any less for property taxes on their tax bill for living on the class 4 road. So I think their assessment is the same as any of the road.
Okay, well, let's make sure we get that figured out before the assessment of the entire town happens. Aaron?
Just a quick comment on that. It comes down to value.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you know, but in your opening statements.
Yes, please.
His opening statements, you know, you pretty much alluded that that's what they could afford when they moved there, when they bought the place. You know what I'm saying? Like, value is location, right? Location, location, location. So, you know, you're off on a road that's not maintained, the value goes down. More affordable, I get it, you know, and the only thing to do.
And the ordinance literally says it's been maintained since 2003.
Okay, Steve? Hey, you guys know that's out of order, right? You know that's out of order.
Pretty clear, class 4 roads
You
are
know it's
maintained
out of order.
Bridges and culverts. It's been that way for like a long time.
Okay, stop. You don't have your hand up.
Anyway, I'm done.
Thank you. I need you to get yourself under control, please. Please. Hal?
Yeah, Hal Elms, North Bear Swamp. Just a question and a couple of comments. Is there any discussion around this list of class 4 roads being downgraded to trails?
Honestly, no. I just put it we put it together because we as a board wanted to see what kind of class 4 roads there were. Knapp, we actually as a board need to downgrade now to a trail because that had 2 FEMA buyouts. Off Bushy Road, there's a private road. Tamarack, we wanted to look at that as well. Off of Leland Farm, there's a private road with 5 homes. Upper Barnett spelled wrong on our maps.
But no danger of South Bear Swamp becoming a trail?
No.
Not as of today.
So I guess my comment would be then too, I think if folks are being taxed the same, it shouldn't be that way. If the folks in class 4 roads aren't getting the services that the rest of us on class 3 roads get, I think that should be looked at. And again, I just want to reiterate the precedent that goes into this decision. And I kind of feel, and forgive my ignorance on the process, but it feels like we're sort of taking a shortcut around a petition process, perhaps. And it sounds like there may be a new policy that's being worked on. I guess I would urge the board to be patient until those things are in place and a more clear path is achieved for this, a decision which has long-lasting impacts.
Okay. Hold Matt and John. I'm going to listen to Liz, then Matt, then John. Liz?
Yeah, I just wanted to make a quick comment to that speaker as well, that there was a time when I was on the board in the last 12 years, it was probably 6 years ago or something, where we actually threw up some class 3 roads that were that had only 1 house on them. So like Merritt Road, for example, which is where the Christmas tree farm is. That was a class 3 road that received plowing by the town. And so I think there were about 5 or 6 of them that we did that to. So I just want to say there is sort of this, there is a history of the town doing things that people might otherwise, not realize that we've done that kind of stuff in the past.
Thank you, Liz. Matt?
So I hesitate to make this comment because I don't think it's about the reclassification, but our assessment should be based on fair market value. Fair market value is absolutely going to take into consideration the costs of maintaining the property. And for class 4 roads, that will include maintaining the road. So I would ask the board, as an action item coming out of this, let's take a look at our assessing rules because we shouldn't be assessing properties that are on class 4 roads such that they are at the same value or same tax amount as we're on the class. That would be crazy if we're doing it.
Okay. John?
Yeah, I want to speak to the value only because, number one, none of us came here today with intentions to do this to get higher home values, okay? But number two, I guess for me, if my neighbor retires and decides to sell their house and their value is a little more because of class 3. As far as I know how real estate works, that only boosts everyone else's value with comparables in the area. So to me, this isn't a net negative in that capacity. So I just would suggest that people stop maybe throwing that in there without any basis, because it kind of spins us into this negative light as if we're here like for some money grab, which is complete opposite.
Yeah, I don't think, but I agree.
It makes us feel that way.
Yep.
And it's a mischaracterization
Yep.
of all of us on the road, and I can't speak for all my neighbors, they're not here, but, you know, it's just what's happening.
So I want to state emphatically right now that I certainly don't feel that way, and I agree that we don't need to talk anymore about the value of Class 4 versus Class 3, because it is not pertinent to this hearing tonight. Do you have something pertinent?
I'd like to say something as a lister.
Go ahead.
I don't need to.
No, if it's pertinent, that's fine. No, if it's pertinent, it's fine. We're at 7:30, so I'd like to end this
But there's a
evening.
lot of things being said, and I don't know if you guys have all had training. I won't say it.
Go ahead and say it, because I don't want you to be upset that it didn't get said.
I don't think there was any wrong intentions made, but I think we need to be careful about what we're saying. Every town assesses differently, and we hire a contractor, so it's not us specifically doing it. It's how it sells on the market for Middlesex. So that might be different than Burlington. So these things, it's not just you're on a Class 4 road, it's black and white. There's a lot, like we do a lot of training being a lister, and it's assessors that actually come through. It's NEMRIC, they're actually starting it. You'll see it on Front Porch Forum today. They're the ones going out and assessing it. And my understanding from the training I've taken from the state of Vermont is there's not a difference. I just think we need to be careful, and before I would say it, I would double check it.
Okay. I think it's one of the many things that is TBD that we have found over the last few weeks.
Could the board,
Last thing,
Last thing.
I know, specifically, right? So, I don't know, I found my group, right? I'm not gonna cry now. So, it's all right. I just wanna reiterate all of the benefits to this town, because we've heard a lot of negative and a lot of why not, but I wanna list just the why. Why for emergency vehicle access is very important, and that's been proven at least 3 times just in the small amount of time that I've lived here. That is important. We also have a town member who is offering to pay 2/3 of the cost, something that hasn't happened in our town history. It's basically giving the town money, and I'm not sure why we would ever snub our nose at that. We could have access to more trails if that was done as well. There are just multiple bonuses, multiple benefits to the entire town. Many of the things that have come up tonight that have said, well, I don't know, we're not sure, this is a gray area. I've been attending and following this since 2022. And since then, many of these things have been in writing, whether it be an email or a formal document submitted to the attorney. They have been in writing and given to the board, and they have been given time to look through this and to finalize some of this work. Now, why it hasn't been done, who hasn't done it, I don't know, and I'm not pointing the finger at that. But I think that that does need to be said, because it's seeming as though this is a lot of gray area and that we don't have these answers, when these answers could have been had over 3 years ago. And so I'm very disappointed that the board continues to say that these are gray areas when many of these things have been in writing. We've been in conversation for multiple years over this now. And I'm trying to point out to you the benefit to the entire town. I'm not moving anywhere. I want my children to have my land. And so this is nowhere a money grab in any way, shape, or form. But there are a lot of benefits, and emergency being the #1 priority for me as a mother.
Thank you, Sarah. So one of the things that the select board has to deliberate on in terms of evaluating the public good, which is a part of the discussing whether to upgrade a Class 4 to Class 5, is the town plan alignment, the financial impact, public necessity, traffic and development, emergency services access, environmental impact, and the similar road rule reminder. So that's 19 VSA subsection 708B. We are not legally required to upgrade this road just because it looks like other class roads 3 in town, is that. So that's a similar road rule. I'm just reading off some scripts that I had to print out to prepare for this meeting. Does anybody else have any comments, or shall we move on? Stacy?
I have comments, but I think they're more appropriate for what I would characterize as the board's deliberations.
Okay.
I think if we have heard from the interested parties, which we have now, I think for quite some time, I am interested in entering what I would consider a public deliberative session where we can discuss, we can hear from the board members, and then ultimately decide how to move forward. Also, if Larry or, including Larry or Liz on Zoom. I have my comments, but I, would want to check in with you as presiding officer as to whether you would agree and that we can now deliberate if there's no other interested persons to hear from.
I do agree, Stacy, so let's go ahead and move into deliberation, and would you like to go first?
Sure. These are prepared comments, so pardon the awkwardness of just reading something. But for me, I think the central question that we're faced with today in reclassifying this segment of South Bear Swamp Road is whether such reclassification serves the public good, necessity, and convenience of the inhabitants of Middlesex as a whole. That's what the statute says. I'd like to also say that's what our Class 4 roads and trail policy and highway ordinance say, but not clear. And I think there is very little dispute that these municipal documents are in serious need of updating. We were in the process, or starting the process of updating them when this hearing was approved and scheduled. I think our board and the public would are very much interested and in need of the clarity that those documents would provide. And I think there's also a lot of opportunity in terms of how we can use them to better serve the town and the interests expressed here. Based on the information that I have heard that, we didn't read the email. We've got an email. Should we, before I do that,
We've gotten so many emails. Which ones do you, I was going to put all of the emails we've gotten.
attach them to the minutes?
Attach them to the minutes.
Okay.
Because we have heard from other people who live on the road as well as other members of the town.
Okay, so we'll append to our minutes any of the correspondence that we've received in connection with this issue. I think it's important because
Including the Conservation Commission and the Planning Committee.
right. So I struggle to see how this reclassification benefits anybody other than the 5 households on that section of the road. I think those residents have serious concerns, and I want to recognize the legitimacy of those concerns. But the statutory standard requires us to consider the interests of the broader community, the whole town. I'm also deeply concerned that the discussion of this matter has become intertwined and conflated with allegations regarding the conduct of a certain select board member. Whether those concerns are valid, I have my personal opinions, not appropriate for this moment. The conduct of an individual board member is simply not evidence that reclassifying this road or any road serves the public good, necessity, or convenience of the town's inhabitants. In addition to that, if the town initiates this reclassification without a petition from the affected landowners, we're basically assuming responsibility for the cost of upgrading and maintaining this road, or at a minimum, the risk of assuming that. I understand that there's promises to pay or offset those costs, but frankly, I don't think we should be giving special preference or special treatment just because a resident has means. Those raise concerns of equity. In taking this up on our own motion, we are wandering into financial implications not only for this road, but also similarly situated roads throughout the town, which is a big concern. We could, in agreeing to this reclassification, we are setting a precedent that could have significant financial consequences for the town down the road. So for that reason, I don't believe that we can evaluate this request in isolation. I think that any decision to reclassify this road should be considered in the context of how we would treat other similarly situated roads. such as I've heard about Notch Road, Zedon Road, Leland Farm, and Bushy Road, all share similar class 4 status with similar density of residents on those segments of road. And I think we have, Eric, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think we have about 9 miles, give or take, of class 4. So there's about 9 miles, and not all of that is inhabited. And so one of the things that we had been kicking around in our workshop of the roads policy is like, is there a distinction in like the town's obligations to maintain like lived on class 4 roads versus unlived on class 4 roads? And someone had mentioned I think Mike Hill had mentioned a comment I made at our last site visit. The segment of class 4 South Bear Swamp Road that's from the Lund driveway to East Bear Swamp is in really tough shape. It looks like a trail. I think it's an opportunity for us to have an honest conversation about maintenance of class 4 roads, and also some roads that like we can't get a grader on that, I don't think. So I really like the idea of the class 4 coalition, because I think that consistency and fairness require that we consider the precedent that a decision such as the one we're being asked to consider tonight would set for the town going forward. And for those reasons, I cannot support the reclassification of this segment of South Bear Swamp Road under the circumstances. And also, though, I think there's some very valid concerns across the board, both regarding the road, the town's maintenance of the road, conduct of select board members with regard to the road. Like, all of these things are legitimate and deserve our time and attention. So with that, I would yield back to the chair for anyone else who has further comments on this deliberation.
Thank you, Stacy. Would you like to speak?
I would love to. Like Stacy, I've got some stuff written down as we went along tonight. I'm not here to argue any of the statements that folks made tonight. I think everyone brought a lot of valid opinions, a lot of valid facts and things like that. My personal stance on everything. My original considerations for this were to help improve a road while utilizing a 30-70 split. With the use of town funds and private funds, all while making headway and helping some neighbors out. I've got 10 years of skin in the game with the roads, so I have a very different view. I've got, that tugs on my heartstrings a little bit different than it does many folks. And unlike some, I'm not able to look at it as black and white, because I do have an interest in seeing the success of our roads. Also seeing the neighbors being able to access those roads, emergency vehicles and things like that. So for me, admittedly, I am one of the folks who has been trying to bridge the gap between the board and Mike Hill. I have no problem saying that, but my intentions are to try and make some headway as a community, not to do things behind folks' back. As seemingly as that might be, unfortunately, what I'm trying to do here is figure out how we can work collaboratively as a community from the town itself. Obviously, I've bitten off way more than I can chew in that regard. I'm a lot better at maintaining roads than creating policies, I'll admit that. But before this, I'd actually tried to do the same thing right after COVID had hit, with the class 4 section of Notch Road at the top where the town forest is. The federal government had given a bunch of money down to all of the states to push outdoor recreation. There was a big pool of money. I was working with a gentleman from Vermont Forest and Parks. They were actually going to fund in a monetary value any materials and things like that we needed to buy, and the town would use its in-kind labor, kind of like FEMA, we would do with FEMA. And we were making some real headway. Unfortunately, my time with the town ended. I tried to pick that back up as of recently, and it turns out the week that I reached out was that gentleman's last week. He was retiring from the state of Vermont. So we're kind of at this crossroads with that. So believe me, I'm trying to look at things from a budget perspective and see how we can work collaboratively. I really am. You know, where I'm at tonight, I'm concerned that making a recommendation to move forward with a lot of the new but not new information that's been brought to light, the board has not yet been able to digest. I can't make a confident decision given all of the new information that's been put in front of me. Again, acknowledging that it's not new, it's just new to me and some of us. You know, so regardless of what happens tonight, I do truly feel like the work we're doing on our new Class 4 road policy does address a lot of the concerns that folks have tonight. It addresses safety concerns, it addresses erosion, it addresses ongoing maintenance and things like that. So at bare minimum, I'm hoping that the board itself can continue to make strides in that and maybe alleviate some of the concerns that we're talking about there that have been brought up tonight.
Thank you, Paul. Larry, do you have anything that you want to share?
Yeah, hi. First, I want to apologize for not being at the meeting. I planned on it and I had an emergency at home and I had to divert here, so I've joined online. So I apologize for not being there in person tonight. I've heard a lot of good comments about what would transpire, and at several select board meetings, I've asked two questions before we take up this issue. One is, do we have a binding agreement, not an offer? I know Mike has made several offers. He's made it to me in person as well. Those are offers. And I had said I need to see something in writing that's binding that will hold him to, getting it fixed. That was first thing. But so it doesn't appear from what Rob said today that we have that. The other thing I said was we need to upgrade the Class 4 road policy, which we have been doing. I think that, it takes time, and we have those select board meetings that get dragged down. Maybe since we have committees, maybe we should be establishing a policy committee that works with the select board and some citizens from the community that can come together and work separately from the board meetings. But that's just a suggestion for down the road. We do need to address the Class 4 road policy. We have, I think that if we get the right policy in place, and it appears the town over the years, from what people have said, has gotten away from doing the basic maintenance on these Class 4 roads for a number of reasons. And I'm not pointing fingers or fault at anybody, but we need to get back to that so a Class 4 road can be, passable safely. And if need be, we need to get emergency personnel to that. That is my biggest concern, because we do not have that in place. And God forbid something happens to these 5 families or anybody else on a Class 4 road. So I can't support this measure at this time. I think until we get those couple things in place, is get a good Class 4 road policy in place that will maybe assist, and it won't be a need to upgrade roads to Class 3. So right now, I can't support it, given so many unknowns with the policies and the ordinances that we have. So we need to get that squared away before I feel we can move forward. But that's all. Thank you.
Liz?
She fell asleep.
Hi. I don't really have anything to add. I do want to just acknowledge that before I left for my trip, I did ask Paul if he would come with me to have a conversation with Mike Hill, because I wanted to, talk to him face to face. And as you know, 3 people makes a meeting. So, and I didn't want to go alone. And Paul has a big history with the roads. So I just want to make it clear that I wasn't doing anything in a to keep things secret or share information, not share information with the town, or not be transparent. But when words like, lawsuits and feeling, where, and his offer to also help pay for it, I felt that it was in the best interest of the town that I try to have some conversation with him face to face. I mean, as chair, I'm trying to look out for the best interests of the town. And I have historically, and you will see it in the record, I had been in favor of, doing what we can to upgrade this road. But I'm also, at this point, I want to, respect the opinions of the people in the room who think that we really do need to make sure that we have a good policy in place before we make this decision or before we move ahead with any kind of decision like this moving forward. So that's all I have to say.
Okay, thank you, Liz. Liz is normally our chair, and I'm filling it while she's away in France, and she can't get back soon enough for me. So what I will say is I can't apologize for the bad behavior of the men who came before me. I can tell you that this board right now, the 5 of us, is a very different board than you dealt with in the past. We care about every single resident in Middlesex, whether you live on a class 2, a class 3, or a class 4 road. We care about you. And we want you to have all of the services and everything available to you that everybody else has. As we have been doing this class 4 road, I don't know if people caught on, but there is the possibility of doing like an A-B class 4. Like there are ways that we can maybe improve the condition of all of our class 4 roads without actually making them class 3. So that is something that we would like to have the time to look into and to explore. And we want to make sure, I think, as a board, that whatever we do, we're doing it right. And we have as much information as we can. You can't make a good decision without having as much information as possible. There are some things that come up that I think that we should address a little later on, like there's a little false equivalency of the upgrade of McCullough Hill Road. So I want to address that at another time to the residents who have questions about that. Other than that, I also don't feel that we are in a position right here tonight to vote to make the South Bear Swamp Class 4 road a Class 3. Therefore, are we doing a motion? Are we voting tonight, or are we? I'd like to ask for a motion, because if no one makes a motion, then this stops, and we can do things like create a class 4 road policy or a policies committee. Let's start with a class 4 road policy. I will say that us doing the class 4 road policy has put aside things like personnel policy, as we've got 2 new a town administrator and potentially a new road commissioner coming in. So again, it's drinking from the fire hose, and we can only get so much done at a time. So that being said, do I have a motion to, do I have a motion that the select board approve the reclassification of South Bear from class 4 to class 3, conditional upon the road, people who live on the road, what's the word for them? The road residents bearing all costs associated with upgrading the road to class 3, statutory standards as determined and approved by the town road commissioner prior to the town officially accepting the road for year-round maintenance. Does anybody want to make that motion?
No, I do have a question. That motion is asking that if the residents were to bear all costs associated.
Correct.
Okay.
Okay, hearing no motion, as there are no further testimony from the public and no motion has been called by the board at this time, the Select Board will take this matter under advisement. We will review the evidence, testimony, and statutory criteria presented tonight. The board will deliberate and issue its formal written report of findings and order at a future regularly scheduled Select Board meeting, which will be filed with the town clerk within the statutorily required 60 days. I declare this public hearing closed at 7:50 p.m.